Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of Game Chat. Today I'm going to be going through my top 10 games of all time. I don't want to waste too much time, let's get into it. So at number 10, I have Battlefield 3. A game that was so innovative for the first person shooter when it came out that it took me especially and the world by storm. And I believe it was the first game that gave Call of Duty actually my first money in the FPS genre category, because I know back when Battlefield 3 launched, I believe it was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 that came out that same year, and I remember like reading Game Informer magazines and seeing like all like the Call of Duty vs Battlefield stuff up and thing. But that was the first major year that DICE and EA would take a crack at trying to dethrone Call of Duty from being top-selling first-person shooter that year, and I think Battlefield 3 was the first step that they taken to a long road of success. But the game had one of the best campaigns that a DICE game has created. And granted, DICE is not known for their video game campaigns. They haven't always been the strongest storytellers. They've always been the stronger multiplayer storytellers. And the campaign is quite good in Battlefield 1, Battlefield 1. The campaign is quite good in Battlefield 3. It's got a lot of action in it. It's got a really good storyline. It's really immersive. And it feels really nice. The multiplayer was, I can't tell you how many hours I have logged in on multiplayer for BF3. I have so much. Maps like Carg Island, Grand Bazaar, Terran Highway, Damavand Peak, which is one of my favorite multiplayer shooter maps of all time. I mean, come on, when you get down to that, I think it's the third MCOM, and I'm rushing that, and you just paratroop off the top of the mountain, and you go down top of the objective. Like, there aren't too many developers in a video game history where they're thinking to themselves, let's have a map where you have to paratroop off of a huge cliff and then land the next map. Like, that was like one of the coolest things I've ever done. And you obviously had people like taking jeeps and stuff like that off of there and parachuting out. It was just really cool. But yeah, DICE absolutely nailed Battlefield 3. I can't tell you again. I had so many hours put in that game. It was one of my favorite games of all time, and the game was so visually stunning when it came out too for a 360 game. And yeah, but Battlefield 3 at my number 10 list. Moving on from there. Next up on the list is the one and only Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, a game that took my open world favorites and took them by storm. GTA San Andreas brought me into the GTA world because I wasn't a huge GTA fan before that. I didn't play everyone played Vice City a little bit. Vice City was okay. Everybody played Liberty City, but San Andreas was the first game, I think, in GTA that I put so many hours into that game. It was like the next step in the development for all the Grand Theft Auto games that it just seemed like Rockstar Games just absolutely nailed the production on it. I mean, granted, the game looks like shit now because it came out on PlayStation 2 way back then, but the game was just so good. I mean, the storyline was great, and just GTA is known for how much you can do in the open world game itself, and my brothers and I just spent hours and hours of multiplayer just going through campaigns, just, getting chased by cops. The game had just endless fun, and that's important from a developer standpoint. You gotta take into consideration, when you're making a Grand Theft Auto game, you gotta go, how long can I make this life cycle go before the game starts to get boring or repetitive for the player playing the game? And I think Rockstar, this was their first major GTA game where they made it so the life cycle was a lot longer than normal games. I mean, I'd say a normal game's life cycle is maybe 5 to 7 days if you really, really get. I'm not talking about playing 5 to 7 days. I'm talking about a working person who works a full-time job and plays on their own time. I'd say 5 to 7 days for a working person, maybe 2 to 3 days for a person who literally just does nothing but play video games. So I would say they play 24/7. But the game's life cycle just lasted so long. I mean, and now it's even backwards compatible on PlayStation 4, which I wish I could play. It would be pretty lit. But the game is just, characters like CJ, OG Loke, Sweet, like all those guys just bringing back some great memories of just the campaign. and it was just so good. But yeah, guys, number 9, Greta San Andreas. Moving on. At number 8, I have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The only Call of Duty game that I have on my list for many reasons. Number 1, all Treyarch games are good, and Treyarch's my favorite developer, but that's not the point. The point is Modern Warfare 2 was the most innovative first-person shooter I had ever played in my life. And I had this before Battlefield 3 because I did collect more hours in MW2 before Battlefield 3. For those guys who don't know about my gaming origins, I did not have an Xbox until 2011, and before that I spent the last 6 years playing computer games on a PC like a normal person would that didn't have a video game console. And I had Steam, and the game that I played on there was Modern Warfare 2. My favorite campaign in every first-person shooter history. The campaign was just breathtakingly amazing. The graphics were so good. The storytelling was so good. The campaign wasn't just thrown together like a homework assignment wasn't. It was just, you could tell that they literally went through, wrote out every single scenario what would happen. And I gotta say, the Wolverines mission when Russia decides to invade the United States and you're going through, I think it's West Virginia, with the urban environment, and the sky is all red, glowing red, and you got all these bombers coming over and all these paratrooper Russians. The Wolverines mission with the Russian invasion has got to be my favorite campaign mission of all time. That game, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a huge fan of the movie Red Dawn. The original one, not the remake. The remake's garbage. The original Red Dawn is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's such a cool movie. And I got so many Red Dawn vibes when I played the Wolverines mission, and I really am just urging you to actually go back and play that as we speak. And the Wolverines mission is so good. But besides the campaign being absolutely disgusting, the multiplayer was so addicting. I could play the multiplayer forever. I mean, Scrapyard was one of the classic close-range maps in the game. High Rise, oh my god, sniping on High Rise in the top balcony. I was trying to jump up on top of the gondola. Terminal with the plane. Modern Warfare 2 has some of the best Wasteland. Oh, Wasteland was good too. Overpass. Modern Warfare 2 had some of the best maps in COD history, and the weapons too. Intervention, FAL, the UMP-45 was so good in that game. But I don't want to talk too much about this game. It's just so good, and hopefully I can go back and play that sometime soon. But that's all for number 9 here. Moving on to number 7. At number 7 on our list of top 10 games is undoubtedly the classic, the historic, and the greatest, probably Western game of all time. And I'm talking about Red Dead Redemption. And this had to be on the list 100% just because the game was so goddamn good. What can I say about this game? The fact that the game launched and it is literally a Western GTA, and it's really so much more than meets the eye when you play the game. It is visually beautiful, even on 360, even though obviously the game's been out for a long time now. It is both visually beautiful on 360 and on Xbox One. The game the multiplayer is special, as well as the fact that the Game of the Year edition even launched with a second game, Undead Nightmare. And Undead Nightmare, a lot of people thought was going to be kind of trash. It turned out being basically a full-fledged campaign for a game that was already successful as it was. And to have a zombie version of the full campaign was pretty lit. Undead Nightmare was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had playing a game. And I can't tell you how much fun I've had in it, but it was just ridiculous. Like, Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of all time, and when they announced that Red Dead Redemption 2 is already in development from, of course, Rockstar Games, the GOAT developer, as I call them, you can't help but be excited. But the game itself is just, just look at the scenery. Look at that scenery. The game is just perfect. And the gun battles in this game are just tremendously so awesome. The way you can aim, having all these old style guns, having horse and buggies, going from town to town, helping people out. You know, you can decide whether you want to be like a villain and not help people, or be a good guy and help people. It is everything a Western fan of a Western civilization would want. And like I said, I can't stop saying so much about this game. And the cool thing is if you think about the map isn't exactly the most massive open world map we've seen. I mean, obviously GTA has been notorious for having some pretty good maps, but the map is decently sized, but it's just a reminder of Rockstar continues to develop with their games, and with Red Dead Redemption 2 on the horizon next fall, I can't help but revive my feelings for this game. But this wraps up my favorite for number 7 and number 6. Moving on here. Alright, so we're at the point where we're starting to get to games that a lot of you have probably never played or heard of. But these are games that I'm going way back for because they are childhood games that I have dear to me and I have to count them. But at number 6, and my brothers are going to find this very satisfying to hear this, but a Test Drive Eve of Destruction. One of the greatest racing games of all time on the PlayStation 2. For those of you who haven't played this or have played this, it is one of my favorite games of all time. And, oh my god, the co-op fun in there. You know, they have 7 heats of racing. I have played so much of this game with my brothers, and it was actually one of the few games where we'd settle scores. Like, you know, if we couldn't figure out something, we'd go on a test drive and we'd settle it with racing. Be like, oh, you know, I think so-and-so's better than who in real life. Yeah, well, you think so? Let's go on a test drive right now and let's settle it in a 7-race inning. And not only that, but the customization with being able to have pretty much any vehicle you wanted, granted you had them unlocked, was so good. I love driving the bus and just destroying cars at high speed. They had a fucking hearse, they had an ambulance, they had a postal truck. Oh my god, the game was so good. And then there was so many different races. You know, you had a jump race, you had a figure eight, you had a demolition derby, you had a point-to-point race, you had a spin-around race. The game was in the destruction. The destruction of that game, you could literally have cars that would lose every single tire and just sit in the middle of the map. And this was the first game in a while where I literally, like, I'm watching this game, I'm destroying cars, and like, this is the definition of a racing game that I want. I don't want no stupid racing game where you hit a guy going 1,000 miles an hour or whatever, and it doesn't even do a single damage because the game's trying to be realistic. I want a game where when I smash a guy into a corner, his car turns into a tin can and his tires come flying off. I want that. That's what I want from a racing game. I want the destruction, the realism of a real-life crash. Test Drive Eve of Destruction was the first game to utilize the amazing crashing feature, as well as the destruction level, as well as the addiction level of having a sandbox-type racing game in an open-world environment. And, yeah, I can't say enough about this game. But, that's it, guys. Moving on to number 5. At number 5, we have one of the greatest Nintendo 6 games of all time, Nintendo 64 games. The World Is Not Enough 007. So, for those of you who don't know what James Bond is, you probably haven't lived out a decent life, because James Bond is one of the greatest action heroes of all cinematic history. And, James Bond 007 came out on the N64, and it was basically like a direct movie adaptation of the movie The World Is Not Enough 007 James Bond with Pierce Brosnan. And, the game is so good. It is pretty much an exact copy of the movie. The campaign is so fun. Not to mention this is the first N64 game to have a co-op multiplayer shooter that was just so natural. You have games like Capture the Flag, Team Deathmatch, like no one's ever done that before in a Nintendo 64 game. The fact that I could plug in controls with my brothers, play this together in a co-op, it was just so fucking good. And God forbid the game looks like shit now because it's N64, but it didn't matter. The graphics didn't matter back then. It was all about the co-op and the ability to play with people. But the campaign was quite measurably long for being an N64 game, and it was just the nostalgia level when I look at photos while I'm making this video. Sometimes my hair would stand up on my arms because some of these games were just so memorable to me, and James Bond especially. Because I really like that. That movie was one of my favorite action movies when it came out, and then to play that N64, it was just so good. But yeah, that's all for number 5. Moving on to number 4. At number 4, we have the most GOAT anti-terrorism game to ever launch in the market at the time, and another N64 title. And I think this did launch on PS2. I could be wrong about that, but don't quote me. But I'm talking about Tom Clancy's The Original Rainbow Six. And for those of you who are going to get this confused with Siege, do not confuse this game with Siege. Siege would not be the game it was if it wasn't for Rainbow Six. This was the original Rainbow Six, not Rainbow Six Vegas, not Rainbow Six Vegas 2. The original Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. A game that I played so many times. A game that I have come to love. A game that brought the whole breach and clear anti-terrorism thing to life. A game that I've had so many memorable moments on, and a game that my brothers and I, cherish deeply in our top 10. And this game, the sounds, the feel, the movement, having to go in and extract a hostage without killing them, having to go in and extract a hostage without having them being compromised. I mean, we're talking about a game here where, if you alerted the enemy, they would kill a hostage in a heartbeat. Like, this is real life shit here. Tom Clancy's literally, did their attempt to give you an example of what it would be like if you really had a life or death situation and taking out a hostage in this game. And not only that, but the levels were memorable. I mean, I believe, if I remember correctly, there was a level on a bridge that was one of my favorites. There was a house level. The game, the sounds, it was like something we've never seen before. But that's all I have for my number 4 here. Moving on to number 3. And at number 3, another game infamous for, settling the score, the infamous Mario Kart 64. The game that was on Nintendo 64, Mario Kart. If you didn't play Mario Kart, I don't know what your deal is, or if you didn't play Mario at all. Mario Kart was the just greatest co-op Mario racing game that I've ever played. And you'd settle the score on just some of the maps. Oh my god, Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road was the GOAT map. Going down the massive hill, the Antarctic map. You have all these maps based around all these Mario characters, and, Bowser, Yoshi, Princess Peach, all this shit, man. Like, this was the game back then, dude. Everybody played Mario Kart. And Mario Kart right now at 64 is actually one of the most famous Nintendo 64 games available. And I do believe when you go to games like Oogie Games, or, you go to like a classic game, Mario Kart 64 is considered one of the classic games, and it is actually quite expensive to buy now. Like, some of the games are like maybe like $5 to $10. Like, last time I went to Oogie Games, Mario Kart 64 was like $40 for a little Nintendo 64 game that's probably not even working anymore. And like, the game is just so historically popular for when it came out that it's become that sought after that the game now is more expensive than half the Xbox 360 games that are on the market, because it was just the nostalgia level of playing something different. I mean, you got these toy little carts that go right around these funny imaginary maps based off of the Mario universe, and a lot of people, like I said, could, similar to Test Drive, I would go into these games and I would settle scores in real life with people. Like, like, you want to fight, bro? Let's go into Rainbow Road and duke it out. But Mario Kart was just something of greatness, and yeah. So that's all for that. Moving on to number 2. At number 2, Medal of Honor Frontlines. The game that I believe not only put Medal of Honor on the map, but actually started to put Call of Duty on the map. I think Medal of Honor wouldn't have existed without Call of Duty, just because Call of Duty really didn't start till after Modern Warfare. But Medal of Honor Frontlines was, first of all, World War II is my favorite one of my favorite historical time periods of all time. It's always been that way, and it always will be that way. Medal of Honor Frontlines was the first, probably major World War II game that ever launched on PlayStation 2. And holy shit, this game when it came out, I mean, come on, D-Day, storming the beaches of Normandy in the first mission, the game was just so good. The game was so good. I can't say enough about it. Like, when you load it up for the first time, and you're in these amphibious vehicles, and the guys just like, clear the ramp, 30 seconds. Like that first line just puts chills on my arms. It makes my hair stand up. Like that game was so good, and like you know, it's memories like that you know they remind you of the young days and how awesome was it, because it just shows you that despite how good games are now, you know, games have had a golden age pretty much all of the life cycle, and Medal of Honor Frontline was just such tactical and such a great World War II shooter at the time. I just couldn't get enough of it, and I find myself going through playing this game thousands of times. The game was so good, and the game was so fun, and just the historical accuracy of playing these missions together. I mean, come on. You just go around on the beach and just have men getting their limbs blown off, and just, oh, it's just so good. But moving on to the infamous number one here. What has been voted one of the greatest games in video game history, and Capcom's number one hit of all time, pretty much. And number one, the only, Resident Evil 4. A game that is so good, I'm only going to talk for a minute about it because I want to end this video right now so it's not too long, and this game just... Resident Evil 4. The greatest storyline in a Capcom Resident Evil game with Leon Kennedy and Ashley Graham. I've put hours into this game. I've bought in this game like 10 different times, from GameCube to PlayStation to the remastered version, having the mercenaries within there. Resident Evil 4 deserves to not be spoken of anymore because of how good it is, and we're just gonna leave it at that, guys. Resident Evil 4, greatest game ever pretty much created of all time. Just such a good game. But that's all for today's video, guys. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button. If you didn't enjoy the video, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments below. And also share with me your own top 10 games in the comments below. I'd like to see what you guys have for your top 10 games. And last but not least, this is just my favorite games. These are not games that I think you should like. These are all my favorite. You can disagree with me. It's okay. That's how it works. But I'd like to make a Rainbow Six Siege video tomorrow. So that'll be for Monday. And then Tuesday, They Shall Not Pass this here, guys. But yeah. See you guys tomorrow with a brand new video. Have a good one.